Ever since watching that Nintendo Direct, my mind has not stopped once to think about anything except Danganronpa 2x2. I might just be infected by the despair disease, or perchance it's the autism. Either way, I have been coming up with every possible prediction for this game, and I wanted to air out all of these theories, not just for the sake of yapping, but I know the Danganronpa fandom can tend to be overly negative. Just look at how they treat DR3. But personally, I really have really good hopes for this game, especially since my first prediction is...
Jetzt zock ich Fortnite und trink Cola! Yippie!
I, like most Danganronpa fans, are obsessed with the idea of Danganronpa's beta version, Distrust. In short, for those who don't know, depending on who you spent your free time events with, your game would diverge into different routes. It makes sense to carry this mechanic over since that's the only instance in the Danganronpa franchise where you have a choice. In execution, I can see it working something like this. You have one last free time event for Nagito, so you decide to get your final hope fragment from him. Because of that, your route is now altered so that Nagito is more determined to follow through with his plan in Chapter 5, as the hope he placed upon Hajime was just completely shattered beyond repair, leaving him just completely hopeless. However, I do think routes have the possibility of being altered outside of the free time events. Because of the recency of 100 Line, I think it's likely there will be times when the player can make their own route-altering decisions. Like in Chapter 3, instead of leaving Mikan with all of the nursing duties, you can volunteer to be her personal assistant. As a result, Hajime can have the opportunity to take care of Nagito. If you have all of Nagito's hope fragments before Chapter 5 and took care of Nagito while he was sick, you can secure a route where Nagito survives, as this generosity from Hajime gives him a chance to realize that his classmates truly do care for him, no matter his talent. Considering the structure of this prediction, it can sound far-fetched since it would mean more than 16 endings at least, but 100 Line proved that 100 endings for a single game is possible. Plus, we cannot forget Kaito Momota, RIP. So I honestly do believe deep down that there will be a lot of replayability in DR 2x2. Building on the prediction that every character can end up with any of the three fates, that would also include Hajime. But in my opinion, he's just so well written, I can't imagine him not being the protagonist for a majority of the DR2 possible routes. Still, that doesn't leave out the possibility of there being a route where he does die. If there's a route like this in Danganronpa 2x2, I feel like Nagito and Akane are potential candidates for a protagonist switch. They both have a Hogeis in their designs, and Akane was also considered for being an antagonist in the early developments of Danganronpa 2. So I think she stands an equal chance of being a protagonist alongside Nagito. I hope she does, at least. Nagito, I love him, but Akane needs a lot more to her character, which leads me to my next prediction. Obviously, with new characters getting a chance to live longer, they'll have the chance to get their arcs. I am obviously referring heavily to Kyoko's character. She was sabotaged so badly that it still infuriates me so much. But I predict and really hope that they give the original survivors more of an arc. There is no argument that Sonia, Kazuichi, and Akane were underwritten. So now that they've had 8 years to conjure up this game, they should have the actual time to consider how to develop each individual character in the cast. Still, Danganronpa has been known to fumble the bag many times before, so that leads me to my worries for this game. My biggest concern is that some characters will not be given nuance. In particular, I'm worried Akane, Sonia, Kazuichi, and Twogami will be treated as unimportant, and in turn, not receive much care as characters. They can easily diminish Akane to her fan service, make Sonia's main trait that she's harassed by Kazuichi, and make Kazuichi's only notable trait that he is the harasser. If you've seen people's reactions to Danganronpa 2x2, a lot of people are saying how they want a route where Kazuichi dies. It is partly Team Danganronpa's fault for this because that's kind of how they wrote his character. And this also applies to Tsugami because I love them, but Team Danganronpa diminished them and Akane just to their eating habits. The two recent Kodaka games I've personally played, 100 Line and Raincode, they did not have characters with eating disorder traits like Akane and Twogami did. So there aren't any recent examples to go off of to see how he writes eating disorders now, which makes me really worried they'll treat Akane and Twogami as a joke. But On the contrary, they did write Aaaa and her disordered eating. It's done very, very well, so it gives me some hope, but not much, that they'll just write Twogami and Akane's character without consideration. This partly ties back to the underwriting of characters, since Akane and Mikan were only really ever focused on in the story whenever they were being sexualized. However, it is important to recognize that neither 100 Line or Raincoat had obnoxious fan service moments like Danganronpa is known for. I have not gotten to the Cult of Takumi route in 100 Line. For those who don't know, the route is essentially the cast being extremely obsessed with the protagonist, which leads to some questionable CG decisions. But even if I have not played the route, it is clear to me that the route was not made for the sole purpose of fan service. Still, with the lack of focus Takumi's essay was given in that route, it does lead me to worry Mikan, Akane, and Hajime's experience will not be treated with seriousness. I mean, the fandom barely ever acknowledges what happened to Akane, and also how Mikan slept with Hajime unconsensually twice. The fandom, it's known for the lack of media literacy, as I said before, so my bad for expecting them to acknowledge that. But the one thing that the fandom has been able to do, that Team Danganronpa hasn't, is acknowledging how creepy and disgusting Teruteru is as a character. I do have hope that the cast won't be so nonchalant to his behavior, and from that, it could possibly lead to an arc of his own. Or better yet, they just don't make Teruteru's whole personality a pervert and just tone that aspect down. Or even better, they are inspired by the hit fangan, Intertwining Vines, and write his perversions in a similar manner to how Little Miss Blue did. That's really all the predictions and worries I've thought of so far. I'm sure I'll have more in a matter of hours. I cannot stop thinking about this game. This is literally why you never KYS. You never know when Danganronpa might make its comeback. I'm not sure if many people will listen to this whole thing, but if you did bear with me, thank you for that. It's my first time ever making a video like this. I do apologize for the stutters and the editing. Again, first time. I don't plan on doing this in the future unless people would want me to. I do want to yap about Kaito and Twogami on here at some point because I love their characters so much. Side tangent, I hope that they give Twogami more screen time in specific routes, and I especially hope that they give them their own sprites and their very own name. Along with that, I hope that they give Miturai and Aaaa a chance, or even Yasuhiro, I guess. I don't really give a gaff about him. But I hope that they have them appear in Trial 6 alongside Makoto, Byakuya, and Kyoko. Yeah, but that's it for now. Thank you for 2K, and thank you for listening to this.